Good morning. It is, I think, exactly 24 hours until my surgery. And I thought I'd make a video as quick as I can about my fears. Now, I do have to say that this is probably, could be a trigger warning for anybody who decides to watch. Maybe you have your own fears about the surgery, and maybe listening to my list might add to your list of fears, but I just want to make this video to kind of calm myself down. And with my anxiety, I find when I make lists of things that I am currently afraid of that are sort of piling into a really big snowball of fear and anxiety, I find that when I make a list of those things, I can just kind of attack one thing at a time rather than being overwhelmed by a whole bunch of fear. So these are some of the things that I'm concerned about going forward with the surgery. Of course, number one on the top of the list, death. That small thing. It's unavoidable to think about something going horribly wrong with either the surgery or somewhere down the line during recovery, something happening. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that moment where you get put under anesthetic and you start to fade away and it goes black, and then is that it? What do I look at in the room? I don't want to look at nurses and doctors' faces. I don't want that to be the last thing that I think of. So I think, honestly, I'm just going to go in. I'm going to watch a couple videos of my kids and just have it ingrained in my mind. And I'm going to close my eyes and just know that I'm going to wake up. Because there's nothing that I can do to be oh, well, if I do this or I say this or I look at that, then I'll definitely not die on the table. There's nothing I can do about it. It's completely out of my hands. So I just have to let go of that fear, because there's no point in freaking out about it. These are seasoned doctors and nurses. They know what they're doing, and I just have to leave it in their hands. The same as when I go on an airplane. You just have to leave it in the pilot's hands and trust that they don't want anything to go wrong either. So yeah, I have to let go of that one. Other fears that I have are kind of weird complications, things like permanent airway damage to being intubated, getting COVID in the hospital, because that's, my stress has been that I won't be able to have the surgery because of COVID. But now that I'm able to have the surgery, but COVID's still around, I could get COVID in the hospital, and then that could be a complication, also possibly leading to death. So that's obviously up there. Blood clots. They've reassured me that, they're going to do everything they can to get me moving and to get my blood circulating, so blood clots hopefully won't be a thing. I'm currently on, it's that time of the month for me, so I don't know how that plays a role in blood issues, but just a random fear. Permanent brain damage. I don't know why that's a fear for me. Maybe the anesthesiologist screws up and doesn't give me enough oxygen, and I just have I wake up a completely different person. I don't know. Flesh-eating disease, because I wasn't cleaned properly prior to surgery. I also have this very painful rash. I know a lot of us bigger people can relate to each other who get rashes underneath our belly. And I'm used to it. Sometimes it's itchy, sometimes whatever. It's just kind of gross. It's what we have to deal with in life, having big guts. But today I woke up and it's actually quite painful. And so I have a fear that is an active infection, that then they're going to go do surgery on my abdomen, and that infection will seep into my new, incisions and cause a massive infection, flesh-eating disease, all these complications. So that ties into my next fear, which is I have to tell them about this infection on my skin, and they might look at it and say, we can't do your surgery until you've been on antibiotics for 2 weeks or whatever. So that's a fear, and I don't think that I can just brush that fear aside by any means. I think I have to take that one seriously and tell them. So now that's just an added stress to an already stressful situation. But it is what it is. it's kind of hilarious that being fat, I have a gut that causes infections, and that infection might stop me from having surgery to stop me from being so fat. My body just continues to amaze me. I have a fear of being left with chronic pain from the surgery. So something, they clip a nerve or do something weird, and I just have this like area of chronic pain for the rest of my life that they can't do anything about. It just is the way it is. People who have dental surgery and they're left with like chronic pain, that would suck. Rupture of my pouch. In terms of the actual procedure and like digesting food and everything, my huge fear is having basically irritable bowel for the rest of my life, having to run to the bathroom, having chronic diarrhea for the rest of my life because of this, and then totally regretting the surgery. Is a huge fear for me. Hair loss, I think, is a fear for everybody, and it's not just a fear, it's like something that actually happens for most of us. My fear is that it's already happening. Like you can see on the side of my head, like I have very thin hair. You can see my scalp through my hair, and it's like I have none left. I used to have like big, thick hair when I was a kid, and it's just, as I've gotten older, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and in the past 2 years it's just gone down to like, holy crap, I don't know how I have any hair left. And then knowing that going forward after the surgery it's going to get even thinner is terrifying. I need a wig. To tie along with that, a fear of just battling constant malnutrition, not having the right vitamins and minerals in my body to support life. Feeling starving for the rest of my life is a fear that I know from talking to people who've had the procedure isn't true. They feel energetic, they feel full of life, as long as they're taking their daily vitamins, which again, the quantity of vitamins that I'll be taking is insane to me. I take a lot right now already, but having a tiny pouch and filling it full of vitamins every day, I don't know how then you fit food in to that tiny pouch. It's all going to just be a total like huge learning curve for me, and I don't understand it, but it's going to happen. Having said that, the whole malnutrition thing, I of course have a fear of failure. I have one acquaintance who considers herself a failure. She's very large, and now she's just kind of large. But she herself admits that she doesn't take her vitamins or supplements. She doesn't eat a balanced meal. She feels like she has stretched her pouch out to the point that she now is gaining weight again, and like it just considered a failure. And so of course I have that fear that I'm going to fail. But what I'm finding even stranger is my fear of being too thin has come up. And at one point, it actually stopped me from even signing up for the program. It's a very weird thing because I feel like I've spent most of my life hating how fat I am, hating how I look, hating how big I am, the big clothes, everything about being fat sucks. Yet the thought of being skinny is terrifying to me, to the point where I almost didn't do this. I have one friend who lost a significant amount of weight, and she is somebody that I would say is skinny, not just like thin or, she lost weight. Like she looks skinny, like gaunt, collarbones, the whole thing. And that just to me is terrifying. And I've tried to like think about why that creates fear in me. And I think what it boils down to is, if you remember from my previous video, I kind of briefly touched on the fact that there's been sexual abuse in my past. I was assaulted in my 20s during that time frame where I was anorexic, and so I was thin. And I think that there's just a fear that thinner people are, when I was thinner, and society, unfortunately, the thinner you are, for the most part, equals more attractive, more desired. People look at you more. There's a safety in being overweight. I know that if, let's say, I'm walking in a crowded mall and there's a bunch of dudes sitting there checking everybody out, I know with like 100% confidence that as I look right now, walking past, they wouldn't even notice me. I would be lost in the masses. I'd just be like another mom body that's let herself go, nothing special to look at. But if I walk by with a little waist and, big boobs and my hair done and all that, like, I would be noticeable. And there's a part of me that I have always wanted to just be invisible, and being overweight has made me kind of invisible in society, and there's safety in that. And I don't like sticking out. I don't like people looking at me or hitting on me, which is weird because I used to go out to the bars and get dressed up, and and you think that would be like a good thing, but for somebody like me, it's I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. And so there's a fear, which sounds so cocky, a fear of being attractive, but it's true. I don't like that thought. Also, like, I know that there's a joke that's just like, oh, I stay fat so that I can't get kidnapped. Nobody would want to kidnap somebody as big as me, because you couldn't physically lift me into a van. And if I was skinny, it's easier to be kidnapped, which seems ridiculous coming out of my mouth, but it's actually like a fear. If somebody can physically pick me up and take me, that's terrifying. So yeah, they're sort of polar opposite fears. I'm afraid of failing and staying or getting even fatter, but I'm afraid of success and getting too skinny. It's like my brain won't let me be happy with some kind of like one or the other, which describes me in a nutshell. My brain just doesn't let me be happy. So yeah, this is my random list of things that I'm afraid of for gastric bypass. I'm still going to go ahead with it. I mean, it's tomorrow. I have to. I've committed. But I think kind of me saying these things out loud, helps me sort of attack each fear individually, and helps me prioritize my fears that might be ridiculous and put those to the side. Or maybe I need to address some of the fears that are more realistic, and decide, what if I can't have surgery because of this infection? I have to deal with that fact. So anyways, probably didn't help anybody, but it helped me. So yeah, I'll probably be making another video shortly about surgery tomorrow, what I'm going to pack and all that kind of stuff. Thanks for listening.